Hey everybody, this is HD,
And this is Pain User.
and it's time for game number 4 in the IEM of IdrA versus Squirtle. And looky here, we have a battle on Scrap Station. I really like this map as Zerg. It's a great map for Zerg. Do you want to give us a lowdown why, Pain User?
It's very easy for Zerg to take a quick natural relatively safely.
Yup.
It's also relatively easy for Zerg to take a moderately fast to quick third.
You know, they can take it at
Or
the
the
goal
gold.
too. That's
And-
what I like to do personally.
The key is that while they're taking that gold or their third, the way this map is oriented and the air rush distances between the two bases,
Yeah.
Zerg can just keep you pinned in your base with Mutalisks for such a long time. And there's really, other than harass, there's no way for you to push out on the map with your army and kill their third.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, you have to defend the Mutalisks or they're just going to counterattack you, backstab you, and it's going to cost you the game.
And I've seen IdrA fly around with huge flocks of mutas. I'm talking about like the types of numbers you'd see in like a mass migration.
The
They're like
flying V of
the
Mutalisks.
flying V of Mutalisks, like the duck play. They're just flying around and killing stuff all over the skies. And I've seen IdrA really beast it out, especially on Scrap Station in ZVP. So I'm honestly fully expecting IdrA to go for mutas this game. And it's a little interesting here that Squirtle has decided to play one base. A lot of times Protoss against Zerg, they'll often go for an early natural by going with the forage here and kind of walling off this section. But Squirtle has opted to play one base, and maybe he's going to go for that early aggressive style, and we've been talking about that a little bit. IdrA needs to adapt. He needs to make something happen before the 9-minute mark. He can't be so greedy, because hey, if you're going to be greedy and push the limits of economy, your opponent, a wise opponent, is going to exploit that, and they're going to take you down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of times players will, just as a safety net, especially against Protoss, I mean, you've got to be worried about the 3-gate, the 4-gate. There's so many different early aggressive builds that they can do. A lot of really good Zerg players, they'll at least get a pack of speedlings, like a 10 to 15 speedlings, just
Right.
to stay out on the map and control things. And IdrA really, he's not even trying to harass Squirtle's natural. He's letting him take his natural. He's not scouting. I mean, really, this is not indicative. Like, this play that I'm seeing from IdrA right now is not indicative of his skill level. He's a tremendously good player. But a lot of people,
Absolutely.
a lot of people discredit IdrA. They say that he's too mechanical. He doesn't think outside the box. Like, that's hogwash. He's a really good player. He's very talented. And he's kind of getting shut down by this build order that Squirtle has. I mean, Squirtle's like, he's playing the macro game. He's safely expanding, like a two-gate Stargate expand, and he's also applying aggressive pressure at the same time.
Absolutely. You know, there's really two ways to play Zerg in my book. That one way is to play macroeconomic Zerg, which is the standard. It's the way everybody plays Zerg these days. But there's also this new kind of emergent way of playing hyper-aggressive Zerg, and it's something that I've seen. Pain User and I actually had the pleasure of watching the GSL cast of July Zerg versus Nada a couple nights ago, and July Zerg, known as the God of War, really puts on the aggression. He loves using Baneling Bus, he loves being aggressive, and his Mutalisks are always active. They're never not flying around doing something. And that's the other style of play. In fact, July Zerg doesn't even max out his drone count. He goes only for 50, just so he can have 25 supply more for army. So it's really another style of play that we're kind of starting to see now. And honestly, IdrA, that's not his style. But a hallmark of any good player, they're able to adapt and switch gears. And maybe IdrA will switch gears this time around, and he's going to put a little more aggression on his enemy Protoss.
Well, it looks like this game IdrA is getting a Roach Warren
Yeah.
much earlier than the other games, and he's opting not to drone up on his natural super hard. So I think he might be doing some kind of like Speedling Roach timing push here. I would love to see something like that. Hopefully that's what he's doing. He's researching speed. It's just about to finish. His Roach Warren's gonna pop, and then hopefully he'll make a bunch of roaches. But if he does do the same kind of, sit back macro, and he does manage to sneak. Oh no, they got picked
just
off
barely.
by the sentries, so he's not gonna see what kind of buildings. And yeah, Squirtle hiding those gateways in the back of his base.
I think IdrA does see it, though, with his Overlord. He sees at least one of them.
He does see at least one of the gateways,
Yeah.
so he knows he has at least 2 gateways, and he can probably guess from the amount of sentries that he's probably doing a safe 3-gate expand.
Wow, look at this. We have Hallucination coming up here. That's a very interesting upgrade to get out of the box for Squirtle. You were talking about thinking outside the box, and Squirtle here is our new Jack in the Box. He's really getting Hallucinate. He already got Warp Gate, So why not get hallucination?
Yeah,
it's a nice spell.
It's an amazing ability. It's something that a lot of high-level players are using a lot more now. It's really common. They'll even use it in Protoss versus Terran, and it's so good because it just allows you to hallucinate multiple phoenixes.
Yeah.
And the key with that is like, for instance, with Terran, if you use a scanner sweep, right? You're sacrificing 270 minerals that you could have invested into a mule.
Yeah.
With Protoss, you're converting energy directly into scouting, and it doesn't cost you anything.
And here we go, prime shining example of that. Doesn't cost you a dime because sentries already have so much energy. Oh, IdrA here losing 2 of his Zerglings, not controlling them to the best of his ability, and now Squirtle's out on the run. He's looking for what IdrA's up to. He sees the roach horn, so he knows now there's gonna be roaches, and as a response, we do have a robotics facility coming up, so we might be seeing some immortals popping out to deal with roaches, and Squirtle just pushing out a little bit and then falling back, just putting a little fear into IdrA's eyes. IdrA, in response, is building 2 roaches right here, and he is getting the speed as well as burrow, and he's also destroying these backdoor rocks. I'm not sure exactly why he would destroy these rocks.
God, that hallucinate was so good for Squirtle. He got a full map scout. He knows nothing's going on. IdrA's not up to any shenanigans. He fully scouts his base, and that's another thing why I'm not really for. I mean, I'm trying not to be biased here, but I'm not really for Protoss being able to hallucinate any unit that they don't already have. Like in Brood War, for instance, you had to have a Zealot to hallucinate a Zealot. You had to have a Dragoon to hallucinate a Dragoon. In Starcraft 2, it's just based purely on energy cost, and to be able to hallucinate a unit like the Phoenix with its full speed and everything, you essentially get a scout of the entire map. You're not going to be able to hide anything from a competent player who's active with his scouting.
And then right now, Squirtle, with his scouting, realizes that he's got an opportunity here to push, maybe A, to force IdrA into producing more attacking units and not produce more drones, or maybe B, just to attack and inflict some damage. IdrA's 3rd expansion here is actually very, very vulnerable to this attack, and Squirtle could possibly pick off this turn. He's going to force the cancel. IdrA is going to run his drone away. Thankfully, he canceled it in time to recuperate some of his investment. And Squirtle, with that, is just going to be like a ninja, hit and run, fall back, and now he's going to switch up his technology to Colossus.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, IdrA not with enough units to deal with the mid-game push. Loses his 3rd base again. This is going to set IdrA way back. It's the 3rd time almost here that his 3rd has been denied like that. Harvester count relatively equal. This is not a good situation to be in against a Protoss player. Like, at this point in the game, as Zerg, you want to be up a base, you want to be way up on drones, and I don't know whether it's IdrA's openings or whether it's Squirtle's feigning of pressure when he moves out, moves back in, but something is not allowing IdrA to get into his rhythm here and really pump the amount of drones that he needs to beat a player like Squirtle.
Yeah, and right now we have IdrA actually getting the Spire. I was expecting to see Spire a lot sooner this game for Mutilus play, but IdRA's just now adding the Spire, so he's going to go Roach, Hydra, and Corruptor. And wow, we have a Warp Prism coming out on the production tab, but keep that in the back of your head because we might have a pretty big battle here. IdrA, if he can get us around with these Zerglings, great force fields there, locking out the Zerglings from surrounding the forces, and oh, Squirtle's Immortal gets caught behind these barrels here. So some doodads actually end up killing the Immortal, and that sucks. I mean,
he's like, guys, wait for me. He's trying to get back to the squad, but
you'd think an Immortal would be a little bit more.
I mean, they can just wreck through everything else. Why couldn't they just wreck through a couple barrels?
You'd think they wouldn't be killed off by a bunch of barrels, but I mean, their name is called the Immortal after all. So anyways, Squirtle's going to be a little bit angry about that, but I really want to see about that Warp Prism. In fact, where did it go?
Man, look at all those upgrades.
There's the Warp Prism. Wow, he's going to go for a probe, and he's going to build a Nexus here. That is super, super slick.
I mean, really like that.
How often does a Protoss player build a Nexus in the middle island?
I really don't think IdrA's going to know about it because he's pretty much denied. I don't know why IdrA doesn't have an Overlord there.
Yeah, that
doesn't make a lot of sense. He should have one there just in case of some kind of like Warp Prism harass or anything like that. He has an Overlord in the main position outside of outside of his main, but he doesn't.
Oh, here we go. Just as we say that, IdrA says, hey, I can hear you guys casting this game even though it's like a week later. He's going to send his Overlords out, but oh, one stops. Is this Overlord going to see the pylon? It sees a pylon just barely, and I want to switch. Oh, he pulled. Look at that. IdrA so quick
Very
and
quick.
fast. He sees it and he's like, hey, what the hell? How did a pylon get here? And now he's going to realize that, hey, there could be a Nexus going down, so he's alerted to that fact. And I just want to call attention right now to the production of units. We actually have IdrA going Roach Hydra and very much investing into Corruptors, and we have a Protoss Death Ball starting to build up. And the main thing for Squirtle here, for the Protoss Death Ball, build tons of Void Rays, build tons of Colossus, wait till you're max, push out, end the game. That's a strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. This is such a terrible situation to be in as Zerg. It's like right now, Squirtle has so much like control over the tempo of the game. Like he's setting the pace. The race is on. The clock is ticking. It's IdrA's game to lose at this point. IdrA has to find a way to deal significant damage. If he just lets Squirtle sit back and get that combination you were talking about, the Death Ball Void Ray Colossus combination, there's really nothing a Zerg player can do about that. When both those armies are maxed and they clash into one another, you will see the biggest joke of a conflict ever.
The Zerg will lose every single time against Mass Void Ray Colossus. And the only thing you can really do as Zerg is hope to trade armies before that army gets maxed out, and then rebuild and then remacro. But even then, like you said, it's very, very difficult to deal with. Meanwhile, we're actually seeing IdrA's point of view player cam here as he picks off. Oh, he's gonna pick off the Warp Prism just barely. Switching over to Squirtle's player cam here. He's at 150 under 180, so he's nearing that maximum supply, and he's continuing to warp in units. This Death Ball is getting very, very scary. IdrA here is gonna pick off the rocks here as he's expecting to see a Nexus here. Maybe not, as he's got... I really like how his Overlords here, they're taking a dump over the bases that could have been placed. He took a dump on the island in the middle, and he took a dump over here. So there isn't going to be any Nexus going there until something comes to remove the thing that's on the throne, basically.
Yeah.
And so IdrA very smart with that, but IdrA needs to be careful. That Death Ball is getting so scary, and it's at 169 under 172 right now.
Yep, IdrA's Overlords are puking in the proper places. I really like how he's been on top of the expansions, though.
Yeah.
Squirtle, and he did this to a lot of other players at IEM and other Zergs. I believe he did it to Moonglade in the semifinals. He actually snuck the island, and Moonglade never scouted it, and he got the island up with a ton of cannons. So IdrA really on top of things, but this push is so menacing.
Dude, those rocks right there just went down in less than 5 seconds. That is how much firepower is contained by all these Void Rays and Colossus. This could be a pretty brutal match. IdrA, you do not want to engage here. There's sentries there. I don't think IdrA realizes there are sentries there, and the force fields are going to cut the army. These Corruptors, they need to corrupt the Void Rays, but there's just too many Void Rays there, and I really don't know IdrA. I don't know why he decided to engage right here. More force fields. This Protoss Death Ball is just so hard to deal with, and IdrA now is trying to get 17 Hydras. He did kill off all the Colossus, so the Hydras here can be very effective against these Void Rays, but IdrA needs to engage at the perfect time. Here comes his reinforcements. He may actually have enough to take out this army. The Zerglings dealing with the Gateway units, the Hydras dealing with the Void Rays, and Squirtle here could actually lose this battle. It's going to be very, very, very close.
Wow, I'm really impressed that IdrA was able to hold this off. That's unbelievable. He did such a great job. If you noticed in the middle of the fight, he wasn't even attacking the Void Rays with his Corruptors. He control fired all the Colossus to get rid of that DPS on the ground, which enabled his Hydras to engage the Gateway units and the Void Rays after the fact. And he was actually able to hold this off. Now I feel like IdrA is actually in a great position. He might be able to take this game, and that is the first time I've seen a Zerg successfully hold off a death push like that. So kudos to IdrA. That was really well played. He had a great concave. He was patient. He waited for the push, and I think he's gonna hold it off.
You know, I thought that IdrA choosing to engage in this very narrow hallway was going to be the death of him, but he actually backed up a little bit onto the creep, and that's what enabled him to get the concave like you were talking about. So it was very nice strategic positioning as the battle was going on, as he was macroing units. Now I just got to worry about this second push. This is the second wave. Note it's not nearly as big as the first wave, and I think Squirtle's just going to GG out of here. His death push fails, and it was basically only off of 2 base, which is kind of, you know, if you fail, you're not going to have enough resources to rebuild that. So
Yeah.
Squirtle loses that game. That's game 4, and it's tied at 2-2 apiece.
Yeah, it's a great series. IdrA was, I think a lot of that had to do with IdrA being absolutely on top of Squirtle's third expansion. He denied the island, then he denied the sneaky expansion at the bottom. IdrA knew that he was looking to sneak one of those expos, and by denying that third, he made Squirtle feel like, okay, I've got to max out and push here. He's not letting me get a third. I have no other options. IdrA basically forced that out of him, dealt with it properly, and that's the kind of play I love to see from IdrA, because he just straight up outplayed him in that game.
Yeah. Well, we're going to move on to the final match between IdrA and Squirtle coming up next. Stay tuned, guys. This is HD, and this is Pain User, of course.
Signing out.